This meeting is being recorded.
So hi everyone. Bonjour à toutes et à tous. So we hope you're doing well in your part of the country. I know some of you are here at the University of Ottawa, but others are joining us from the West Coast or even the East Coast and other common law jurisdictions across Canada. So thank you so much for joining us and for your interest in the University of Ottawa's Civil Law National Program. You'll notice my voice is crackling a little bit today. I'm just getting over laryngitis, so bear with me. We'll get through it. But for those of you who don't know me, my name is Jennifer Nadon. I'm the manager of the Professional Development Center here at the Civil Law section. And I'm joined today by Pierre Thibault, who is our assistant dean, as well as two professors who teach in the program. So we'll have Professor Karen Eltis join us in a few minutes, and we also have Professor Anne-Françoise de Bruche, who will be here to talk to you about all the great things that there are about this program. So just want to start first by recognizing that the University of Ottawa is the traditional territory of the Algonquin Nation, and we pay respect to the Algonquin people who are the traditional guardians of this land. We acknowledge the longstanding relationship with this territory, which remains unceded. We pay respect to all Indigenous people in this region from all nations across Canada who call Ottawa home. And we acknowledge the traditional knowledge keepers, both young and old. And we honor their courageous leaders, past, present, and future. So I do want to inform everyone as well that the session's being recorded to allow some of your colleagues who had a scheduling conflict today to be able to access the information a little bit later at a time that's convenient to them. So let's get started. So first, you may or may not know that approximately 65% of the world's population uses the civil law system. So of course, this includes Quebec, but also large parts of Europe, South America, Africa, and Asia, including China. So we're very excited to talk to you today about the opportunities that, adding civil law training to your common law training could open up for your career and your professional development. So our agenda today will be as follows. So first, our assistant dean will start by giving you a quick overview of some of the program logistics, including the calendar and the course sequence. And I'm actually going to drop the website address right now in the chat so you can refer to it as Monsieur Thibault is giving you some details. And then we'll have our professors talk about the course content and the evaluation process and what to expect from the mostly asynchronous nature of this program and a little bit more about the actual learning experience itself. And we can also touch, on the usefulness of obtaining your civil law training on the legal job market, the University of Ottawa experience as a whole, if you're not from here, as well as answer any questions that you may have about the admissions process. So without further ado, I will turn it over to Monsieur Thibault, who will give you an overview of the program. Donc, Monsieur Thibault, c'est à vous.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for your interest in our national program. The national program is 30 credits. 12 of those are 18 of those are mandatory and 12 are optional. So there would be 5 courses in the fall and 5 other courses in the winter, each of those courses of 3 credits. So in the fall, we will offer obligations 1 contracts, obligation 3 with Professor Eltis. She will speak a bit more about her course later today. And then we will have property law, persons and family law, and civil law rezoning with Professor de Bruche. She will also speak a little bit later about the course Civil Law Rezoning. In the winter, we will have 4 main courses: security for debt, wills and estate, civil procedure, and private international law, with probably another course about a legal essay on a civil topic. So with 30 credits, you'll get your degree. your licence en droit civil, so a degree in civil law, and that degree will open the door for anyone who wants to do the bar, the Quebec bar. While doing the Quebec bar, you'll be entitled to practice law in Quebec, but also more and more the Justice Department in Ottawa and elsewhere in Canada, the Justice Department is hiring more and more students with both degree civil law and common law. So scholarship fee are about 20,000 for that program. That program will be online, asynchronous, but for the course of Professor Debruche, it will be on real time at the end of the day. I don't know what the time exactly, probably 6 to 9 p.m. or 5 to 8 p.m. Ottawa time. So that will help students from across Canada to follow the course in right time. So that program, we would like to have about 15 students registered to that program. So that will be small classes, and that will you will be in a position to get involved in the course, ask questions, and be close to your professor. And we think that it will be helpful for everyone to follow that program. I'll let Professor Debruche and Professor Eltis speak a bit more about their course, and then I'll come back with a few tips for the admission and the registration.
Great, thank you so much, Monsieur Thibault. I don't know if Professor Eltis or Professor Debruche, if one of you wants to start and chat a little bit more about the courses themselves.
Maybe
you're muted, Professor Eltis.
No, I just unmuted it.
It was bound to happen. Thank you so much. I do apologize for that. And that's the beauty of the asynchronous course, in that I don't have to unmute myself. I just a few quick words, and interrupt me if needed. As Pierre Thibault said, I think the tremendous advantage of these small groups is the contact and the constant contact with the students. I've found that when we're small groups, particularly since we don't see or interact with one another directly during the timeframes, which are helpful for scheduling, I'm able to have one-on-one phone conversations at people's convenience, which is rarely the case at law school. And so we'd set up appointments and we'd have exchanges. I've had fascinating exchanges with students about their career ambitions, career paths, paper consultations. And I'll add a word, and I'll let Professor Debruche intervene in case I may have cut her off. But in my course in particular, there's emphasis on technology. As we know, and as we are now speaking through Zoom, cyberspace is borderless. And so it lends itself to a variety of legal traditions. My area is internet law. And so in our course, even though the focus is civil liability according to civil law rules, we really look at the use of the civil law in the Fourth Industrial Revolution, how it might be used for cyber careers and technology. And many students write their papers on related issues. So the utility is not only civil law in the borderless world, as Monsieur Thibault mentioned, but also for those who are interested in any type of career related to platforms or technology or artificial intelligence. So that was my 2 cents.
Okay, so I teach the only synchronous class that you will have, which is it's called Civil Law Reasoning. This is a class I've taught for several years, and I really enjoyed the national program students because you already have common law formation, so you're really in a good position to make the comparisons with civil law and to extract the best of it. Why this class is synchronous is because we go beyond simply rules in this class. We look at the legal cultures. What is the legal culture of civil law? How does it compare with the common law that you already know? Since I have common law training myself, and I teach also at another program in the common law, I can build bridges for you. You won't be left building your own bridges between what you already know about the common law and about the civil law that you're learning. So we will build bridges together. And this is why we need the interaction, not only you and me and one student, but all of us together, to benefit from your experience, to benefit from your reactions to what you hear, because what you gain really with such a program is a new look on what you already know, a new look on the law, the common law that you thought you knew, and you will look at it in a totally different fashion. And this is the benefit of comparative law. What seemed like the only way to do things, you will discover is just one way to do things in law. So civil law is a good comparison angle to look at your common law in a different way. So it's also a way to deepen your knowledge of your own law. And I find that very interesting. And this is why the class is synchronous, so we can have interactions together, and I can benefit from your own experience of the common law, which is singular for all students.
Excellent. Thank you so much, professors. And, you know, as Professor Eltis and Professor De Bruch were saying, you know, maybe the fact that cyberspace is borderless is a really good opportunity to engage with civil law. And, you know, the fact that you have that common law knowledge and training already makes you well positioned to, you know, deepen your knowledge of the two legal traditions and also engage with comparative law. So really, really interesting stuff. From a maybe legal market, job market, or professional development perspective, I would also add that, you know, if you're someone who is interested in international law in particular, this could be a really good opportunity for you to gain some additional law knowledge. Or working for the federal government, as Monsieur Thibault mentioned, or even accessing the Quebec bar, because there's no reciprocity at the moment, which means that you do need a civil law degree in order to be able to access the Quebec bar, including the Quebec Bar School. So all really good reasons to do this program. If any of those things are on the horizon for you, if any of those objectives are part of your professional development path. Other reasons, you know, if you're someone who maybe doesn't have plans yet for next year, you're in your last year of common law studies, you haven't yet made plans for articling, you love studying, you want to stay immersed in that academic setting for a little while longer, you're not quite ready to let go of that, why not consider doing a useful gap year, is what I call it, essentially, right? Where you take some time to work on your personal growth, take some time to job hunt, maybe establish a link with the National Capital Region, including Ottawa, increase your GPA, building your knowledge of the law. If law is your passion and you're wanting to learn more, you're not quite done with your studies, this could be a really good next step.
And Jennifer, I don't know if I can just add an extra word, because Professor De Bruch's comments on your own led me to also think about my own experience working at a New York law firm, even prior to what we now know as the digital age. And I was trained as Professor De Bruch in common law and civil law. And I thought, well, New York, it's a common law jurisdiction, and they'd be interested more in my common law training. But in fact, the area that I worked in, which was international arbitration, and that's where the segue is, was we dealt with a lot of Latin American countries and Asian countries, as you mentioned. And the most useful part of my training, which set me apart and hopefully brought added value to the firm, was civil law. So sometimes it's not immediately evident if you were thinking of a career, let's say in international arbitration or at a New York law firm or at an American law firm, and it wouldn't be immediately evident where the civil law would be relevant. All the more so in the digital age, I think that experience kind of highlights the variety of opportunities that are brought to bear through something that is not immediately obvious to all.
And international laws you mentioned is mostly built on civil law, actually. So if you're interested in international law per se, it owes much to the civil law tradition.
Great. So we have a quick question in the chat before we move on to other questions, as well as other details about how to apply or how, eligibility criteria for this program. So a question in the chat: is it possible to complete this program while articling or working full time? From my perspective, I don't know that I would recommend that, even though it's mostly asynchronous. I am very familiar with the requirements of articling. It's very heavy. It's often more than a full-time job. And this program being a very intensive 1-year degree where you're essentially getting the training of a typical 3-year degree in only 1 year, it's going to take a lot of your time as well. And so from a professional development perspective, that is not something that I would recommend. I don't know if our professors have anything to add or other opinions on that.
I don't know in terms of the workload and the curriculum. I just know that in previous years, some of my students were working, not necessarily articling, but I had one who was working at a provincial court as a lawyer. I had another one who was in practice, and that my part was asynchronous, so they were able to do so. But I can't speak to the program itself. But I have seen students working, although not necessarily articling.
I would add that it's possible to do the national program part-time. Part-time means 1 or 2 courses, maybe 3, but 1 or 2 each term. So strictly speaking, yes, it's possible to work full-time and study part-time. You'll have to manage your schedule accordingly.
Excellent. Thank you for adding that. So yeah, it is a program that is flexible generally by nature, right? And so if you're someone who's willing to have, take the required courses over a longer period of time and not necessarily finish in 1 year, maybe that's something that you could explore. So thank you for your question, Sana. All right, so yeah, go ahead.
I could add that the deadline to apply is June 1st, and there is one process for U-Ottawa student and another process for non-U-Ottawa student. For U-Ottawa students, you need to go on Eurozone and then follow the steps to apply. For non-U-Ottawa, you have to go to WAC, Ontario University Access Center, and follow the rules to apply. You need only a form and a transcript. There's no personal statement or anything else required. And usually you'll get an answer within 3 weeks of your application.
Great. So while the deadline to apply is June 1st, we do encourage you to apply early because applications are considered on a rolling basis. And from the time you apply, it typically takes a few weeks for you to get an answer. So if you're really eager to be part of the program, we do suggest that you send in your application earlier rather than later.
And usually you apply while you are in your 3rd year of your GD program. So we need a GD completed, and then you would start your license program. Do you have any question?
So here's your opportunity to ask questions about, you know, admissions, the logistics.
Okay, there is a question on the chat. Do you have to complete this program right after graduating from common law, or can you complete it after years later after graduating? You can do it whenever you want.
I had a student, I think last year, losing track of time right when the pandemic set in, and he was in his 60s, and he already had an LL.L, and he was a senior member of the, he was a lawyer for Justice Canada. He was, and he had always wanted, having seen the usefulness of the civil law in his long career with Justice Canada, wanted to do the civil law, and he did, and it was just a brilliant addition to the conversation. And because it was asynchronous, I basically, through our phone conversations, kind of integrated his thoughts into capsules. So never too far off to do this.
Yes, and I've had older students too before.
If I remember correctly, we had a tax court judge as a student once.
Yes, possibly. Yes, I remember him.
All right, so we have a question for our professors. A student who's wondering what the exams are like. What are the assessment like for the courses? Are they exam based, or are they mostly assignments?
Veux-tu que je commence, Karen? Okay, should I start? Because my class is not about one area of civil law. You cannot have an exam-based evaluation. So what I usually do is to assign one Quebec decision to each student, and you present that decision in class and compare it with the common law. This is basically the exercise. And I ask you which domain of the private law you would prefer. Which domains interest you most? Is it contracts? Is it family law? Is it civil liability? Is it property law? And then I choose for you a decision in English. There are not that many, but I managed to find some. And I even gave some on, I had a native student once, and she asked for something connected to native law. So I went towards the adoption law and family law. So I always find something that connects with what you're interested in within private law. And then you present that in a comparative perspective, and looking at the civil law methodology in the decision, you present it orally to the other students. And then after, you just have to do an essay on the same topic. So this is the evaluation in my class.
I think our thinking is similar. I agree. In my class as well, the material doesn't necessarily lend itself to an examination, and we take it that the students already have their JD and are advanced. So my method for over a decade now in different areas has been the student selects a topic. And there's also very wide, very often it'll be a technology topic, or I also had a First Nation student that linked the related topics to civil liability in this case from a comparative perspective. And then you prepare a presentation on the topic you selected and look at how, as Professor DeBruch said, how would the civil law look at this issue in a different way, perhaps of arriving to a similar solution. You prepare a presentation that is recorded and is posted on the class website, about 15 minutes. And that is a part of the grade. And the largest part of the grade is a paper on that same topic that you have chosen from a comparative perspective. So it is really an advanced problem solving and trying to tie the specifics of civil law liability to a larger theme of your choice. And it can relate to, we've had students who were engaged in practice, and so they tied it to an aspect that they were particularly into. So it's a paper course.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for those detailed answers. We have a question from Donica. Go ahead.
Hello. So I actually applied for both the English and French streams, and I was wondering, besides the language of study and the asynchronous format, why would a student choose between the English stream or the French stream, if you had any perspective on that?
Well, I taught both because I teach also property law to first-year students, and usually I have the national program students in French in my class. So the advantage you have in the English program, as you said, it is asynchronous, but more than that, you're in small classes, so we can really tailor the class for the students. When I teach only in English at national program students, I can build on what you know of the common law. When I taught property law at the national program in English, I also know the common law of property law, so I was able to compare with what you knew. But when I teach property law in French to a large group, because if you do it in French, it will be with a larger group of French-speaking students, so it is totally different. It will be just a regular class of property law with civil law students first year. So it's really different.
And the groups in the first year are about 80 students in French. So compare 80 to 15, you will have much more interaction with your professor at 15 instead of 80. But if you want to take a course in French, feel free. But the national program in English will be, I think, very interesting from a student perspective also.
Yes, and I noticed that students who do the national program in French, they are kind of lost in the huge mass of students, French-speaking students, first-year students, and they don't have necessarily the same background and preoccupations. So there is no sense of group, if you want, for the national program students when you do it in French. It's very different.
Thank you.
Yes, exactly. The French national program is definitely not asynchronous. It is not even distance-based. You have to be in class because we plan to be in class next September. So no, not only it's not asynchronous and it's not distantiated either.
Thank you for raising that and confirming it. Yes, that's sort of the reason we're promoting the English version of the national program civil law degree is because of this huge advantage that it will be offered asynchronously in an environment. As you know, the intention is for the vast majority of programs to return to in-person learning in the fall, and so this will be an exception to that, and we're hoping it'll be a draw for some people that are wishing to study in that format. Any other questions?
There is one there about the language. Pierre, maybe you can answer it.
Yeah, so you can be registered into the national program in English and follow one or two courses in French. That is possible also. It's your choice. But as Professor Debruche has just said, if you take the course in the French national program, you will be in Ottawa in a classroom, not at distance.
So if you're already in Ottawa, you're coming from the U Ottawa Common Law program, maybe that's super easy for you, right? So not for everyone, but maybe not a good opportunity for those of you who want to strengthen their French language, want to be a little bit more immersed in that. There's some flexibility there for you to be able to choose that if you wish. Okay, so a question about course offerings. Are there any course offerings in the summer or summer courses available to students who would like to study part-time?
I think we will examine the idea for summer 2023. If there are enough students interested by a summer course in the national program in English, we could certainly do so. in the summer 2023.
Really great questions so far. Keep them coming.
And if you do it in French, Pierre, I imagine you can already take summer classes. What do we have this summer?
Yeah, we have a few courses this summer, optional courses that could be taken in French, like droit des sûretés, for example. Droit et technologie. So we have about 5 or 6 courses in the summer offered in French. But if there is enough students for a course in English, we can do it.
So, Monsieur Thibault, you talked about mandatory and optional courses. Is there a certain order that students have to follow when they're taking these courses?
All the courses of the fall term are mandatory. So you start in the fall, and there are 2 or 3 mandatory in the winter. So it's a very easy schedule to follow.
And so I understand from that, Mr. Thibault, that if a student chooses to take a longer time to complete their courses and they miss one of the mandatory courses in the fall, they have to wait until the following fall in order to take that course in order to continue in the program. I'm just trying to look at it from a part-time student's perspective and see what the sequence looks like.
In that sense, you'll have to do at least obligation 1 and property law before security for debt, wills, and estate. That's quite sure for my part to do obligation 1, property law in the fall before doing security for debt and wills and estate in the winter. So you can do civil procedure in the winter, maybe private international law, but I'm not quite sure that it is very wise to do that course before doing the mandatory course of the winter. So you could start by 1 or 2 courses in the fall, and then take civil procedure in the winter if you want to stay part-time.
So it is possible to do some courses, maybe not all of them. And we would, obviously, we have people here who can guide you and answer your questions about what courses you can and cannot take before another. So don't worry too much about that. All right, is there a different, go ahead.
Okay, there's no different application process for part-time or full-time. You apply, you say full-time or part-time, and then you will be admitted if you have all the requirements needed. We are very flexible for part-time and full-time.
So perhaps this is something you would indicate on your form, your enrollment form into the program. Just make sure that you indicate your preference for part or full-time. Great. Any other questions at this time? All right. And Mr. Thibault, if any students think of questions later, who should they direct those to, or where should they direct those questions?
They can write directly to me, and if I don't have the answer, I'll consult my colleagues.
Great.
And don't hesitate to call us and write to us. Don't hesitate to do that, and you can even change your mind over the summer, saying that I want to do the national program part-time instead of full-time, or the contrary. So feel free.
Wonderful. So a key takeaway for me is the flexible nature of this program. There's a lot of options for customizing your experience. And I think that that's a really good advantage, especially in the ongoing uncertain times that we're living in at the moment. Professors Altis or De Bruch, do you have anything to add before we wrap up the session?
It's one of my favorite programs. I mean, I teach at the licence. I teach at the Programme de droit canadien, which is another integrated program. But the national program is my favorite program. This is where I found my best students. Honestly, it has inspired me for my research in comparative law between the common law and the civil law. It's really my favorite program. So I can only advise you to try it. It's a great experience.
I couldn't agree more. And in fact, in terms of utility, in a recent Quebec Supreme Court decision, Justice Abella of the Supreme Court noted the importance of comparative law in furthering the law. This couldn't be truer in these times. And with the flexibility, a student was asking earlier, could one have a conversation, a long and interesting conversation with one's professor when there are 80 students? It's harder, right? Whereas with the national program, it's really this small cohort where you do get personalized guidance and you look at the law as it could be. As my judge would say, it's like looking at yourself in the mirror and examining what you know and how you can do things differently and better in a world that requires agility and intellectual flexibility. So yeah, couldn't be more important.
Yes, we have good students, and the papers that you write, they are usually very individual, very distinctive papers. And when you apply for a clerical position, say the Supreme Court, these papers can help you in your application, because I had students who did the national program and they got the clerkship at the Supreme Court of Canada, and what they discussed was the paper that they wrote in my class, because it is very specific and it sets you apart.
Yeah, and publications as well. One student who was working at a Quebec, she was looking to move to the Quebec branch of the law firm that she was at, had written a comparative paper, and that was published and was extremely useful. And then she kind of tailored her practice. This was in the area of AI and liability. And she kind of tailored her practice and is now practicing at a Quebec firm on point. So there's so much both academically and practically that can be done.
And this is the right way, to me, this is the right way to do it. Like you did your whole common law, and now you're going to learn about civil law. To me, this is the best way to do it, because you have integrated programs like at McGill or the Programme de droit canadien, where you do like everything at once. It's kind of confusing. Law is a different language, so you're learning it. It's like learning two languages at the same time. At least you did your whole common law, and now you move to the civil law. So it's very orderly, and you greatly benefit from both. I think you take the maximum of both.
Great. So I just wanted to do a last check-in with our participants to see if there are any last questions before we end the session. It doesn't look like it. So thank you so much to our panel for collaborating on this information session, and to our participants.
Yeah.
Just a second.
Oui.
Don't hesitate to talk about the program with your friends.
I love that. I love how you slid that in. Great. Amazing. Hopefully we'll all see you next year, and we'll start to see some of your applications roll in over the following weeks ahead. Have a fun, wonderful rest of the week, and thank you for being here. Bye, everyone.
Merci, Professeur De Bruch, Professor Altis. Merci, Jennifer. Thank you very much, all.
Merci à tous. Au revoir.
Merci. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.